We're really excited to have the Lieutenant Governor here in Founders Den with us. A lot of people don't realize that Gavin Newsom was a successful entrepreneur here in San Francisco before he became mayor, and then obviously before he became Lieutenant Governor.
I'm MG Siegler with TechCrunch TV. I'm here today with Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom. Thanks a lot for taking the time.
My pleasure.
So this is pretty cool because we're in the Founders Den, which is a new spot that we've written a little bit about before for kind of startups and to do some work in San Francisco in the Soma district. And you've got some pretty cool news because you actually are working.
It's my office. Now. I'm a startup as well. Now, as a former mayor of this city, and now, of course, Lieutenant Governor, and we're in a startup mode in terms of the way we're approaching the challenges of the state. And of course, if anyone really focused on what the Lieutenant Governor's office is and does, they'd appreciate the startup analogy actually really works because it's a position that hasn't necessarily been defined. It's really defined by the personality of the person holding the office and their ability to exercise it. So I thought it would be appropriate to connect with some of the spirit of entrepreneurialism and energy and that sort of ecosystem that exists here in a place where people are using their talents and cross-pollinating some of those ideas and connect it with the politics up in Sacramento.
That's great. I mean, traditionally, where does the Lieutenant Governor work out of when they come into San Francisco?
In a sort of traditional bureaucratic environment, 9 to 5. And when I say 9 to 5, trust me, you have no idea. 9 to 4:50. Every day the place empties out. Monday to Thursday, it seems everyone's gone on a Friday. And it's in the old State Building. And there was nothing energetic about it. It's not a critique with respect to the people that are there.
Sure.
It's not going to enliven the senses. It's not going to distill a sense of connection to the walls outside, or rather the world outside those walls. And so I thought it was the antithesis of what I should be doing as Lieutenant Governor. I think it's good for a politician to actually get out and try to understand the world around them. And what better place, again, in an office where people are sharing the environment and obviously sharing these ideas.
Sure.
And that, again, sense of idealism, which is really unique to the ecosystem of the San Francisco Bay Area, again, that entrepreneurial, innovative ecosystem.
And so you're actually going to do all kinds of government meetings in here, have people come in and just do everything?
Yeah, anytime there's a tie here, you know that's someone related to some politician, but
sure.
Otherwise it's as long as I don't disturb everybody else's work here, and it's a nice thing for me. I live in San Francisco. This is in San Francisco. I've got the office up in Sacramento. Sacramento office gives me the lobbyists, give me the bureaucrats, give me the way things have always been done, and everything about it reinforces that. This gives me a sense of possibility and expectation and allows me to be a little fresh when I get up there.
All the 20-year-old startups kind of guys just hanging out around
exactly.
Here.
And I was proud when I was mayor. We really worked to launch the connection with Twitter at a time when no one knew who Biz was or any of these guys. The Zyngas of the world and what Mark Pincus has done, and a lot of these new companies, which sort of part of the organic realities of life here in San Francisco. And was, as mayor, I connected with a lot of that work, and I enjoyed it. And we did the open data initiative, the first big city to do that, Government 2.0, and really trying to push the envelope on that, and working to look at putting government information up online in a machine-readable way. People can mash it up, download it, and look at government, as Tim O'Reilly's talked about, as a platform, and people designing applications for their own government interaction. All those things were really possible because of my proximity as mayor of San Francisco to that reality around this city. And I want to take a little bit of that energy and know-how in terms of my own experiences to Sacramento, because trust me, it is desperately in need of that kind of entrepreneurial energy. And I don't knock the people that are up there, but seriously, think about your worst case expectation and multiply that by infinity, and that's the reality up there.
Speaking a little bit about San Francisco, of course, while you were mayor, as you talked about, you were pretty big in getting involved in the startup scene and making sure that there was a lot of activity in the city itself.
Yeah.
How do you think we're doing overall now, like within this region, really?
Barely scratching the surface, but it's exciting, and I think you guys have written about it. What's amazing, what's happened in the last 4 or 5 years, is we're seeing Silicon Valley move up north, and that's why it made so much sense for this space to actually open. And I was surprised it took this long to have this kind of space because I'm seeing all these remarkable companies. It was about 4 years ago that Wikimedia Foundation decided to move in San Francisco. For me, that was a symbolic tipping point because we just started to see that now we were able to recruit these companies, and we were in a competition for people around, for that company or for that business model around the country. And the fact they came to San Francisco, to me, suggested that something different is happening here, this sort of Web 2.0 that's now taking shape, sort of that post.com boom bust, and people emptied out. But now you're starting to see a lot of really innovative companies here, and it's exciting. And I got to say, it doesn't surprise me. Twitter's going to be dramatically expanding their space, we hope, soon here in San Francisco. It doesn't surprise me that Google finally came up here, and Yahoo and Microsoft even. Wasn't that long ago Microsoft didn't have any presence in San Francisco. People are now starting to come in. The Salesforce.com's growing another 2 million square feet, and what's happening with cloud computing, to see what's happening with Mark in the incredible online gaming world.
Yeah, they have a huge new space.
Huge new space, which we were excited to announce, the old Sega space. And all these other companies that are, I think, going to find similar growth potential and looking to expand within the 47.5 square miles in San Francisco, as opposed to dramatically expanding outside, suggests that something special is happening around here.
And can you speak a little bit about the Twitter situation in specific, because I know that you were pretty close to that situation, and now of course Mayor Lee has to deal with this kind of hoping that they don't leave the city and kind of.
Well, he has to deal with it, but with a lot less uncertainty, because we actually drafted some legislation to provide a payroll tax exemption to keep them, particularly in the mid-market corridor. Would be fabulous if they actually.
You think it's going to work?
That if they get the, there's a lot of factors outside of government that will precipitate a decision. If they can make the deal for the space, it's a huge thing for this city, particularly for that mid-market corridor, and I think will become an anchor for all kinds of other businesses to take note in that area, which is right now is not the area that everyone hopes it will eventually be. 4th Street, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. But the reality is, in the next few years, particularly the arts community moving in and a lot of things already taking shape, if they anchor, and they're on a good part of that street, that corridor, but if they can anchor that edge of that corridor, you're going to see all kinds of great things happen. And of course, that's a space that can accommodate huge growth for Twitter in the future, and they're going to be growing exponentially.
Into the thousands, right?
Literally thousands. And I remember that. I mean, literally, I remember going down to Twitter and expecting hundreds of people the first year that everyone started paying attention to them, and it was just a few dozen people. And to think how quickly they've grown and how impactful they've been to the consciousness of the world, literally the world, as it relates to what's going on in Tunisia, and obviously what's happening as we speak in Libya, and what happened in Egypt, et cetera.
Definitely. And finally, so you were actually an entrepreneur yourself. Not everyone knows that before you got into public office.
So this is me bringing.
Is there something you can give back to kind of the founders?
What I'd like to think, I've got 17, 18 businesses that I started, over 1,000 employees in the state, mostly restaurant and retail background, a couple wineries and hotels, and retail stores generally. So I'd like to think I, carried a little bit of that into my life as a politician, and now as with my new role in a different realm of politicking in Sacramento. I hope I can bring a little bit about that back. And so I hope I have something to offer from an entrepreneurial perspective, not just a governmental perspective. It's nice to be here at the same time, though, too, wearing the governmental hat, because a lot of these folks want to move from a space like this into their growth phase. And how do you interact with permitting? How do you interact with tax incentives or government in general sense, regulatory sense? So I offer a little bit of that.
You have some experience.
Yeah, I got some experience on the receiving end and the giving end in terms of setting up those rules and regulations. But hopefully it can be my version of a one-stop shop to help some of these businesses as well.
All right, well, great. Thanks a lot for taking the time, Lieutenant Governor.
Thanks for having me.